Alright guys, so in the last video we rendered our picture in V-Ray, and now we're going to put it in Photoshop and just see what kind of simple stuff we can do to it. I my desktop is an absolute mess, but I saved my file from V-Ray as a PNG, so it's right here. I'm gonna just drag it into Photoshop. And so what's nice about PNG is it just got rid of my sky for me. I like this unless I specifically set up a sky in my V-Ray. If I have a sky in my V-Ray, then maybe I don't want to have a PNG, and I would just save it as a JPEG. That way I'll be able to see that sky. But this is probably going to be more beneficial for me. Anyway, so I just dragged my image into Photoshop, and then my background is gone, it's translucent, and you can see my layers here. I just have one layer, and yeah, so right away I'm going to get started and just try and add some background and fill in what we don't have, and try and make this come to life to a degree. So I have some images saved. You just basically Google images, and I'm probably not going to put this in the most natural, the setting it actually belongs in, but again, just showing you what you can do. So I found essentially this picture, and I'm just going to put my building in that setting, or attempt to, I should say. So I have it. I'm going to drag it over onto my image. Now, it's probably not going to be the best quality because my image is really small, but we're going to enlarge it. And make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, we can go somewhere in there. To see if this is looking good in our layers, right now the layer we have, that image I just dragged in, is on top of layer 1. Layer 1 is my picture, so I can probably just, to make this tutorial a little bit easier to understand, I can name this V-Ray image. I can drag this under my V-Ray image, and it's going to put it in the background here, which is nice, right? That's what we basically want, are these trees to look like that. I can click back on this image and then do Control J, and that duplicated it. So now if I whoops, so now I duplicated the wrong image. So if we go to, okay, this is the one I want to duplicate. So if I click on this, I can just literally click with my mouse on the image and then do Control J. Now I duplicated it, so I have another one, and I can put this essentially right there, and then if I do Control T, it's going to give me these settings so I can fix my yeah, I can rotate it around, do whatever I want. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Basically what I'm trying to do is line up with what you're seeing, this little tree over here. Yeah. Nice. So that was super easy because all I had to do literally was find an image and then slide it into my behind my picture. behind this picture. So that's what you're literally seeing. It's super basic images, and I just put this in front of it. Now, just turning off the visibility of this layer for a second, we're going to look at this. These are, if you look at the grass in this compared to my grass here, this grass is super green, and so we're going to lower the saturation a little bit. So there should be a tab, adjustments, or I could technically go to layer and then do new adjustment layer, and I could find all of them here, but I like them right here. There's adjustments, and then I'm going to find one that says hue and saturation. I can just click on that, and I can just lower my saturation. And somewhere in there it looks good. So the before and after of that. Cool. Turn back on my image. Now the tones match a little bit more. You might have noticed that there's a little seam right here, and we can fix that later on. But anyway, already this actually doesn't look too bad. It's going in the right direction. So, but we should add a few other things in here. For instance, a good thing to add is maybe some reflections in this window. That honestly would help a little bit. A way we can do that is we can pretty much, if we want, take our same image that we put in the background and overlap it and cut away, so you're seeing maybe some reflection from the other side. And I think that is, yeah, I'm not going to quite do that, but I'm just going to basically overlay a sky over these windows, and so these windows would be reflecting like a sky basically. I have a sky saved already on my computer from a different project, so I'm just pull that up. It's a sky that I like. That's another thing, is once you start getting more and more into rendering, save images that you like that set up a good render for you. Okay. You can't really see this. Gonna pull this out in the front. Alright, now you can see it. It's a pretty basic sky. I'll make it as big as my windows. Alright. This is where things get a little confusing, so watch what I'm doing. So this, I'm clicked on my layer that has the sky on it. Down at the bottom, I can turn on a layer mask. So I'm going to click layer mask. It's going to then have this selected right here. It's a white little canvas next to my image. I'm going to Control I. It's going to make it all black. And it's basically got rid of that image. I just painted it away. Now what I want to do is paint it back in where I select. So I'm going to select my windows, the area of the windows I want it to be back in, using a polygon lasso tool. I'm going to draw it myself. If I'm on the polygon lasso tool, I know my window is in here. If I hold shift, I can add another selection. I'm going to the middle of my mullions here because these mullions are really deep, and I know my glass is hitting it like halfway. You can almost even see the line. That's why I'm doing that. Whoops, I forgot to hold shift. It's okay. We can go back. You should try and get it pretty accurate. it'll look more realistic. I'm holding shift to do this multiple times. Just make sure you keep the shift button locked down so you can keep selecting. Shift. And then one more over here. Alright. So I have all those windows selected. I can go to my paintbrush. Make sure I have a white color selected. And I'm going to go to opacity. I'm going to go to a very, very low opacity. Actually go full opacity. And it's going to be very, it'll look like this. And just that's okay for now. We're going to fix that. And by fixing that, I click on my layer. And then there's an opacity here. I can lower it there. Now we should go somewhere. I'm gonna go like 18%. Yeah. So that added just like a little bit of life, basically. They were pretty dead windows, and now they just got a little bit of life. Like some sky is actually hitting those windows, they're not just black. So I can do the same thing over here. Going to draw my selection. Holding shift to select multiple. Technically a little bit through here. It's an opening, so you would actually see a little bit of my window through here. So I'm going to select this too. Alright. Same thing. Gonna paint that in. Nice. Now to make this even more realistic, if I make one of these black, and then I lower my opacity, when I paint in, it's going to take away where we made that window, and right underneath the roof there'd be less of a reflection because the roof would actually be covering that. So we can get rid of that a little bit, make it even more realistic, more of a gradient. It's just little things like this that you'll learn. That's why I'm teaching you kind of the basics of it. On the ground too. Yeah, nice. Okay. So we got that. Now let's add a person. So I have a little guy I already saved on my desktop, and I'm going to drag him in. What a stylish man. Alright. Gonna shrink him down, size him up to something that makes sense. So he's almost the right size. He should be about somewhere in there. Like over here makes sense size wise, but the closer he is, obviously the bigger he has to be. So right here he's even bigger. Like these steps don't match him anymore. So it's gonna be about here for the steps. Maybe a little bigger. Right there. Awesome. Okay, yeah, so we can hit OK. And let's make him a bit more real. So if I click on my image I just brought in, which is the guy, and then I click on the circle with it's like a half circle, click on that, and then go to hue saturation, I can get rid of all I have to, this is kind of confusing, I have to lock it into this layer by holding option. Yours might be alt or something, but it should have a little arrow pointing down. I click that. Now I get rid of saturation and lightness. You probably don't even need to get rid of saturation because you're just getting rid of lightness. But before we do that, so it's actually good that you're going to see me do that again. I'm going to delete that layer. We're going to copy him, so Control J, and then Control T so we can adjust him. And we're going to actually, if we hold Control on these points, we can mess him up like even a little bit more. And so we're going to get him onto the ground level. What we're doing essentially is we're making a shadow for this man. He needs a little bit of a shadow to make it more realistic. I zoom in here and his feet should like match up. So his foot is right there. Oh, actually, I actually got it wrong. If you look at the sun, the shadow's going this way. Yeah. So, hold on, actually. Let's redo it. It's Control J, Control T. Bring this man onto the ground. Like so. You can use the stairs to kind of help. And this leg would go to here. And this leg would go to there. And let's match the angle of this shadow, so you can see it's going like this. So we're almost there. It'd actually be a little somewhere right there, I think. Yeah. The shadow doesn't have to be too accurate, just as long as you have something on the ground. And let's lessen the length of this shadow. Yeah, alright. That looks about right. It's not gonna be perfect. It's okay. Alright. So now we have this image on the ground. We're going to put it behind him. And we're going to do... Now is where we go to this little circle. And we go to hue and saturation. I hold control to... or option to make the little arrow to make it attach. It's attaching it to the image. And so now if I get rid of the lightness, it's just doing it on the shadow right here. And so now we want to lower the opacity of that a little bit. Of this of the image, to make it look a little more natural. There. So now he has his shadow on the ground. Awesome. One of the other things I would add actually is, I don't know why it always helps, but adding birds is always for some reason so helpful. Now you don't have to add birds, but I just add birds a lot of the times because I think it looks nice. And you don't have to have that many birds, and I can lower the opacity of these birds so they're a little bit more faint in the background. Yeah, just like that. Alright, now, like I said, to go back and get rid of, whoops, I don't know why that's happening. It should be attached to this. There we go. Okay. Yeah, let's go back and get rid of this weird line right here where the skies transition. So if I go to the images of my sky, which is this one and this one, click on both of them, and I'm going to say merge layers. So that made it into one layer. And there's a tool called the patch tool. It might be just right here visible. It might be underneath another select, like another drop down. But yeah, it might be like, it might look like one of these or something, but yeah, it's called the patch tool. And what it lets me do is I can select kind of an area that I don't like, and I can drag it to an area that I think looks okay, and it will just kind of blur that transition a little bit. So now it's not this crazy line anymore. Now it's pretty much, you can't see anything. So honestly, yeah, here's a render. It's not too bad. And what you could do here is like add some flavor to it. You could put on different like filters maybe to it to make it look more realistic, more dramatic. You could add some different colors and stuff. Yeah, like you can do a whole bunch of post editing to this. Basically like a picture that might make this look nicer to you. You could add people back here, whatever you want to make this look realistic. But this alone is a great start. or I mean, just a render in itself. Could be it could be done for all you care. Like, just a render is literally just the image you're trying to convey, and if this conveys your message, then it's done. I will show an example of like the same building, but a different way to convey the message. And like it's basically like this is more of a realistic render, or like trying to be a realistic render, so you're showing your message realistically. You can show it abstractly by doing something like this. And so if you notice, my birds are just silhouettes, my person is just a silhouette with low opacity. I just show a portion of the sky, like, okay, here's sky, and I represent the ground just in a section. So this is actually, doing something like this is nice, it saves time. You don't have to edit a background. It's basically just your image from V-Ray, and then you just put a sky with birds, and if someone's looking at this, they get it right away. They know what's up. They get the idea of it. And so, yeah. I just wanted to show that as an example, is you don't always have to achieve these like realistic renders. You can do anything you want to convey your message. So yeah, that's that.